flattened his neck, stood up, hissed and took off. They did not want to bite people. So if you run away from a venomous snake, folks, he's not disappointed because he didn't want to bite you. He doesn't want to waste his precious venom on a human that he can't eat. He's happy that you ran away. What he doesn't know is you've probably gone straight to the club or pub, had a couple of drinks and told everybody in the bar that you were chased by a tiger snake. It's certainly not true. Okay, these were our greatest killer for many years. The first anti-venom for tiger snakes was developed in 1937. During the 1930s, there was a snake man called Curly Bell. He was one of 18 people, 18 professional handlers, who ended up dying from tiger snake bite. But Curly had a high level of immunity. He would allow one of these tiger snakes to bite him and would hang off his hand. People thought it was a trick. They said, oh, he's milked it, it's got no venom. Rubbish. He took a bite that would kill a half a dozen people. He'd go home, take a headache tablet and go to bed. There was no treatment available in those days. And in the next morning, he'd be back in the pit, his eyes would be all bloodshot, looked like he'd been on the grog all week, but he was alive. And he did this year after year. And a tiger snake of average size bit him, and he died in 4 minutes. And a coroner's inquest proved that by a freak accident, the snake had bitten directly into a major blood vessel, and the venom went straight to the heart. No amount of immunity can save him. Folks, these snakes were collected in huge numbers, and the biggest population of tiger snakes I've ever known was a little town near Canberra called Bungendore, where a fellow snake catcher who was a property owner there claimed that he was running 2 sheep and 100 tiger snakes to the acre. No one believed him. He caught 7,000. And those snakes were used for anti-venom research, so he saved a lot of lives indirectly. These are tiger snakes, average size about 1.2 metres in New South Wales. They grow much larger on the islands of the Bass Strait, and they're jet black, because in the colder climate, the darker colour allows them to warm their body a lot quicker. But most of the ones up here are banded to some extent. Come on out, you come. Good boy. Okay, as you can see, they do vary in colour. Now, please be aware, brown snakes can be banded, brown snakes can be jet black, brown snakes can be orange. So colour is not a good indication, and it takes years of experience to identify snakes accurately. Either one of these is one of the greatest potential killers among snakes in the world. But these are both very quiet snakes, not that I'd ever trust them. They are snakes that have become used to being handled. But if I suddenly make a movement, I may be able to get this guy to flatten out. You can see the flattening of the neck there to make himself look bigger. Tiger snakes like this give birth to live babies, and the record is 109 in 1 litre. That's in captivity. We don't know what happens out in the wild, but the average is 20 to 40. So ladies, stop complaining about the pain of childbirth. 109, that's pretty scary. But they don't have to look after the babies, and most of them don't live very long. It's nature's way of keeping a balance. We don't want them to be overrun by tiger snakes, but nature doesn't want them to disappear either and become extinct. So they have lots of babies, and a very small percentage reaches adulthood. Now, tiger snakes like these have killed at least 18 professional snake men, including Curly Bell, the guy I mentioned. Curly's death was the quickest snake bite death I know of in Australia. Dying in 4 minutes is almost unheard of. My last bite many years ago was from a tiger about this size. Bit me very quickly on the finger, thank goodness it was a quick snap, and I can't take the anti-venom, I'm allergic to it. So I sat it out, and believe you me, these are a very nasty snake to be bitten by. But they're not aggressive, they're gentlemen, they're not like the cow and punchers we read about in the newspaper. Sneak attack artists, these guys give you plenty of warning, unless of course you step on them in long grass, which you should avoid doing. Now, in a moment we're going to talk about first aid for snake bite. It's changed dramatically. Last year, a young man died at Tamworth from the bite of a brown snake. His dog had grabbed it. He took the snake from the dog's mouth and bit him on the finger. It wasn't a very large one. And he went in and said to his mum, look, what bit me? She put it in a coffee jar and they went straight to the hospital. He did not carry out first aid and he died 45 minutes later. Now, I'm not saying first aid would have saved him, but it would have given him a much greater chance. Let's go back 60 years. Doctors gave very stupid advice. You know what they said? If you're bitten by a venomous snake, you should chase it through the bush and kill it. Well, the faster you move, the more you pump the venom that's in your system, and the worse effect you'll have. And you're risking a second bite because they said the reason to kill it was to bring it to the hospital so we, the doctors, can identify it. I went to a lecture where a professor who does know snakes asked 30 doctors to identify a brown snake amongst 8 brown-coloured snakes on the slide. And he said to me, Neville, shut up. So I did. And I watched them get it wrong again and again and again. And finally one of them in frustration said, well, what the hell? He said, what's the story? I said, none of them are brown snakes. He said, exactly. And he showed them then a brown snake. There are so many brown coloured snakes that aren't brown snakes. So doctors are not qualified to be able to tell what sort of snake bit you until they developed a recent thing. In the last few years, every mainland hospital has a venom detection kit. It won't tell you what sort of snake has bitten you, but by testing the venom on the skin or in the blood, it can tell exactly which anti-venom you require. Because many times people were given the wrong anti-venom because they misidentified the snake and they died. The anti-venom is specific to each snake. But a bandage like this should be carried by every Australian. I carry a 3 or 4. This one is particularly used for snake bite treatment. As you can see, it's got little rectangles on it. And the doctors tell you that when you stretch them until they're square, it's of the right tightness. I'm sorry, I don't agree. I don't believe they're tight enough. How I test the tightness of the bandage in snake bite is if I can put my finger comfortably, very firmly between the bandage and the skin of the victim. It's a little bit firmer than you put on for a sprained ankle. The old idea of a tourniquet is now outlawed, because if you don't let that tourniquet go every 20 minutes for 30 seconds, you end up losing your limb or damaging it permanently. It's painful, it's unnecessary. So tourniquets are out. The same treatment I'm about to show you is the same treatment for the funnel web spider, the most dangerous spider in the world. No one has died from the bite of a funnel web since the antivenom was developed in the 1980s. If you're bitten by a redback spider, do not put a bandage on. Put an ice pack on the bite and go straight to hospital. A bandage will only make it much more painful. Okay, let's say I'm bitten there. I very quickly wrap that firmly over the bite, no washing, no cutting, no soaking, and down around the fingers. You say, why? Isn't the venom going up? That's where it will kill you. Yes. It's to stop people twitching their fingers, because muscle movement will pump the venom. And people do it when they're nervous or they've been bitten. They move their fingers without realising it. So you bind the fingers and then continue up the limb. Now I'll stop there at the same time. It goes right to the top, over the sleeve if you've got a long sleeve shirt on, and over the trousers if you're wearing long trousers. Don't try and remove them and create movement. Now a farmer said to me, what happens if I'm bitten on the leg and I have to walk? It's no ideal situation. If you're in the middle of nowhere, you take a chance on walking and it will pump the venom, or sitting and hoping someone comes and they may not come. So it's a very dangerous thing, but people who carry this out effectively have usually been okay. Now on the arm, you can, once the arm is bandaged, you can bandage it to the waist, or you can put a splint from the elbow to the fingers. Splint the leg so it won't bend, stay calm. The chances are the snake did not inject venom. I advise you treat any known or suspected venomous snake bite as a life-threatening emergency, because any delay can be fatal. If your child comes to you and says, Dad, Mum, I got bitten by a snake or a spider, for heaven's sake, believe them. Because some parents have ignored the child because they couldn't see any marks, the child's died, and they found the fang marks post-mortem. They can be very hard to see. Brown snakes, our deadliest killer. You can be bitten by a brown snake and not even know that you've been bitten. Whereas the red belly, which is not as dangerous, is a very painful bite. So every situation is different. But for $20, a bandage like this is a huge investment, and it can be carried in a jacket pocket, in a vehicle, on a tractor, anywhere you want it. Okay, we have one more snake to look at, folks. 2 of them here, the same type. These are the eastern brown. We've always known they were dangerous, but we now know they're the second most venomous snake on this planet. Number 1 is the Australian inland taipan. Despite claims recently there's a sea snake deadlier, it's not true. I checked with a professor friend of mine who does all the venom research. He said, Neville, I've never seen a sea snake yet that comes close to this snake here, or to number 1. This snake is widely spread right across the eastern coast of Australia. It's possibly the most commonly encountered large venomous snake in New South Wales today. Not in every area, but overall. They can live in dry areas, wet areas, and they're more likely to come up to your farmhouse or your shed than most snakes. Why? Because the adults feed on rats and mice. If you've got a bird apiary in your backyard in an outer suburb of Sydney, you'll get brown snakes, because the seeds attract mice and that's what they're after. Now they do not chase people. I recently wrote a very detailed article for a venom research magazine, and they call it The Chaser with a question mark. Because people sing out to me, oh, the brown snake will chase you. They can't. The fastest venomous snake in the world is the black mamba, 20 kilometres an hour. It's deceptive, it looks 3 times faster. I've had professional runners tell me they couldn't outrun my snakes. And they watched in shock as I walked, took 3 quick steps and opened by the tail. I very rarely have to run to catch a snake. It's when they strike or change direction that they're far quicker than us. Before we look at that, folks, I'd like to show you something. I was inspired by a book many, many years ago by Eric Worrell, the founder of the reptile park in Gosford. That book was called Song of the Snake. My mother bought it for me in 1959 when it came out. I was 10 years old and I read it backwards and forwards until it fell apart. And that inspired me to leave home at 16, to sneak out of my home and to hitchhike to North Queensland to catch taipans and crocodiles. And that's what I've done ever since. Now, people said I was mad, crazy kid. I had a great life. While my mates sat in the pub with no more imagination than to have a beer, I could have a beer too, but I had it in North Queensland. And I was out in the bush all the time. As soon as I became known as someone who knew about reptiles, I was being paid to live my dream. Zoos and wildlife parks would pick me up and say, Neville, we've got a list of animals we need caught. Yep, no worries, I'll go and do it. But you can't do it now. The law is so strict. I hitchhiked up and down the east coast with bags full of venomous snakes, pythons, baby crocodiles, the whole bit. I never told people what I had, for obvious reasons. I remember having a little baby crocodile that long, and I put it in the hand basin to have a swim in the men's toilet in the Shell garage. And the guy came in and went to the toilet, came back, and I said, hang on mate, I'll just move you mate. I pulled the crocodile out and he went, you're kidding. He couldn't believe it. I got a lip straight away. He thought it was fascinating. But I've had snakes up to 15 foot long in bags on the back seat of cars and no people over there. Always not the same thing. I got a review done of this book by a professor friend of mine. He said, Neville, it's not only a tribute to your love of reptiles and your enthusiasm, but he said, it's an adventure story that any Australian could appreciate. He said, because it will never happen again. It will never happen again because the law won't allow it. So he said it's a window into a lifestyle that's long gone in Australia. And I'm glad I was there to live it. I was able to bridge that gap between the old-time snake man and the more scientific approach. But I'd like to show you two photographs that were taken by doctors when I was bitten by an eastern brown snake. I was 19 at the time, about 5 years ago. And you can see the damage you do. At 19, like all 19-year-olds, I never die. You're bulletproof. I've been bitten before. I got through a tiger snake bite, didn't even affect me. The snake had failed to inject venom. But on this occasion, a mate of mine had rang me and told me he had the worst brown snake he'd ever handled. He said, this thing is unbelievable. So I borrowed it for a show, like an idiot. And as I held it like that, the first strike went over my shoulder, just missed the face. Second one over here, the third one I got it right, straight into my face. And it was pure reflex. I brought my left arm up like that, and I took the bite on the wrist, with a snake chewing. I remember my mother singing out, what's wrong? I said, he won't let go. And I could see the muscles in the back of the head pushing the venom in. I thought, boy, this is not good. If a snake hangs onto you, a venomous snake, tear it off. Because the longer they're on, the more venom goes in. So I treated it, I went to hospital, and the doctor took one look and he said, how many times did it bite you? There were 9 puncture marks. And I said, once but he chewed, and he said, you can't survive that. He said, no human can survive that without antivenom. Now, antivenom is based on venom milk from snakes, and it's extremely dangerous. So it's only given where life support is available and adrenaline. And they didn't have time to do that. They just rushed me into intensive care, gave me the antivenom, last thing I remember for a long time. When I came out of a coma, hours later, it was to be told that I'd been declared clinically dead on 3 occasions. They had to resuscitate me with external cardiac massage. They had to intubate me for pure oxygen. There was a bag of blood hanging above me, and I said, how's the blood? He said, your white blood cell count is 2.5 times normal due to the destruction of red blood cells. This is what brown snakes do so well. I was on life support for 7 days and nights, and the doctors were very honest. They said, we don't know whether you're going to make it. But on the 3rd day, they asked could they take photographs for a medical journal article, in which they stated it was one of the most complex treatments they'd ever had to carry out. And I had my life to some dedicated doctors. They called in professors of tropical medicine. They called in 3 of Australia's best-known snake men. And it was even mentioned on TV that I was fighting for my life. On the 7th day, they took me off life support and said I'd make it. They also told me I had to give up venomous snakes. And I did, for 12 weeks. At least I tried it. I couldn't live without them, so... The top photo shows me with my eyes blind, my lips swollen out past my nose. You wouldn't recognise me. My arm greatly swollen. And the bottom photo shows the actual bite. and it's not something you wish on your worst enemy. Absolute agony, frighteningly dangerous. This is the eastern brown that you get around here. It's probably the most common large venomous snake in this area. So I think that's a lot clearer than I can tell you in words just how bad a snake bite can be. When I saw the article, they said it was a very complex treatment, and I certainly realised that they went through a very hard time keeping me alive. And I really appreciate the attention I got from the doctors. Every time I'm bitten since, I get a thing written on the bottom of the medical report. We suggest no more contact with snakes, but doubt that that will be the case. Well, at least they're learning. The fact is that I love what I'm doing and I believe it's important. Because if one person can walk away from a show like this, understanding snakes more, having a better attitude and being a lot safer, that's what it's all about. By the way, folks, as I said, it is an adventure story rather than a technical book. I usually charge them $40 for these. They're going for $20 today and possibly tomorrow if I don't run out today. So if anybody wants a signed copy, see me after the show. Now the brown snake can grow to 7 foot long. I've seen 3 over 7 foot, and I believe there's a record in the Australian Museum of a 9 foot specimen, which would be an absolute treat, as rare as an 8 foot human. But I limit the size of the brown snakes I use in shows because the big ones tend to go over the top of the pit into the crowd. That's not good. Not good at all. It's never happened to me, but it happened to a mate of mine at Dubbo. He's very lucky not to lose his licence and very lucky nobody was bitten. So brown snakes are excitable. They're very, very nervous snakes, but they're not savage snakes. They're snakes that will defend themselves with vigour. Somebody said to me one day, he said, if you're sensible, you don't want to be in a fight. But my goodness, if you're in a fight, you've got to give it 102% because you're stupid not to. And that's exactly what this snake does. I had one guy call me from Orange when I was working out of Orange years ago. I've got a brown snake right next to my house. I said, don't move, watch it from a distance. I'll be there in 10 minutes. I got there, he's standing there with a shovel in his hand. He's as white as a sheet. There's 2 inches of snake tail lying on the path. I said, what did you do? He said, I tried to chop its head off. I said, you're not very good at that, are you? And he said,